Mirror man, you twist and turn my mind until I don't know who I am. Mirror man.
Good afternoon and welcome to the first live on the whistle of the new season. It is pre-season, but when you win the Community Shield, it's competitive. It's a big trophy. It's up there with the Super Cup. I'm joined by a man like Matt Candela, who has dialed in from Mallorca, and I am with Johnny Cochran, who is sitting in the sweltering heat of England without breaking a sweat, though. Johnny, how are you feeling today?
Absolutely lovely. I mean, isn't it nice to have Arsenal back playing in games that you can tell me it don't matter, but kind of mattered to me. Felt like it mattered. Felt like it mattered to Erling Haaland as he's starting to see. He looked like the guy out of Get Out. The nightmares unfolding in front of his eyes. He's like, can't do anything. Yeah, you know, this is slow motion for you, Erling. Look and weep. I loved it. Really enjoyed it. So much to dig into. I'm not even going to talk about Humble Pie because this is a very happy pod. But there's lots to discuss. Can't wait to hear what you guys got to say as well.
Matt Candela, your pre-season preparation has rolled over a little bit. It's not that professional that you're still on vacation when you're supposed to be here in the mixer. But we'll let it go. But you might get the Aubameyang treatment when you get back to New York. How are you feeling today, Matt? Is it beautiful in Mallorca?
It is beautiful. Got here this morning, and I didn't put too much hope on the Community Shield because I thought we'd been a little bit sluggish this pre-season. I thought we might see a little bit more of that sluggishness creep in, but there was only one team that looked like they weren't at the races today, and it was not Arsenal. It was wonderful to see. I didn't realise quite how much I'd missed seeing us, and there were a couple of moments in that game today that made me think that I may have underestimated us a little bit. I was not sure the hunger was there, but a few players maybe proving me wrong a little bit. They look very, very up for it today.
Everybody's just going to be eating humble pie today. I love it.
Can I say one more thing? I mean, you're not the only one, Matt, who maybe underestimated people. We just did a little kind of pseudo before the whistle ahead of this Community Shield with Pedro, Jacob and I. And the predictions that were bouncing around was Pete was giving Man City a 2-0 win. Jacob saying we might win on penalties. I'm out there beating the chest saying 2-0 win to the Arsenal. And you say, look, nothing's changed from last season with the Arsenal. Nothing's changed at the AOP. Johnny's handing out predictions like spoiler alerts. Because guess what, guys? Arsenal showed up, ready to roll, just as I said they would. And I can't wait to get into this season.
Stepping in front of your humble pie eating session this early to try and change the narrative. Absolutely disgraceful, but that's what we love about the AOP. But the other thing we love...
Hottest of takes.
Hottest of take.
The AOP, hottest of takes. Make it spicy.
Matt Candela, where are you going to go with the season's first hottest of take?
Well, it wouldn't be the AOP if I didn't go straight for the jugular to one of my co-hosts. And today I'm coming for you, Johnny Cochran. I'm coming for you because I saw a player today who has been written off a hell of a lot by you and by us over the last year, even over the last 2 years. That was the best performance I've seen from Martin Odegaard in an Arsenal shirt in a long time. And I think we were doing the therapy with Pedro on Thursday, and I said, I don't want any of this pre-assist nonsense. I don't want to have to look at the stats to tell you that Martin Odegaard had a good game. You know how I want to see it? I want to see it in the danger zone. I want to see it in the box. I want to see it with goals. And today we got it. That was an absolutely saucy finish. I loved it. I loved the way he was playing. I loved the fact that he had a smile on his face. It looked like we didn't just have Martin Odegaard back, we had our captain back. He looked like a different human being. It wasn't, eating disorder Martin. It was, leading the full team Martin. And he looked wonderful out there today.
Finish was a little bit like the sort of thing Kanu used to do. Put the keeper on his ass and then finish. Oh, absolutely.
It was. We haven't seen him do anything outrageous in 2 years. Now, let's be honest, we haven't. But that was an outrageous finish.
All right, Johnny. Shots fired. Are you going to use your hottest of takes to give an apology to young Martin?
So, I'll be honest, that was where I was going with my hottest of takes. It's around Martin. I thought he was the star of the show today. And if you want me to, I can fire into Martin right now. But for texture of the pod, maybe I'll save it because he's obviously getting his own category. And then I'm going to give him his flowers because he was absolutely excellent. But the other person who I thought was very close, I think, just to, again, add a little bit of texture and hottest of takes, this Christos Solis guy is a very, very serious player. And we spent the whole year last year wondering whether the form in a farmers league around Europe could transfer over for Big Vic. And people are like, no, it won't work. And then we sign a guy playing in an equal league in terms of difficulty who has stats that are even more impressive, or certainly on the same kind of level. And you think, if we judge it by the same coefficient, he's probably not going to find it, going all his own way. I think he's absolutely class. I think those stats that he's been doing in Belgium, I don't think he's going to be going far off. I think he looks like one of our best players, and I'm not even joking. Absolutely. He looks like time stands still when he gets on the ball. He doesn't panic, physically strong. He can go inside, outside. He's got the weight of pass. He looks like he can finish. The assist for the Kai Havertz thing, that's the kind of stuff that you just don't get out of Martinelli. There's not enough smart play. This guy is a very, very smart player, but he looks like he's got a clinical edge. I know, and I was the guy saying it on the pod, that I think we need to sign a superstar because I was worried potentially about whether Saka would get back to those heights and whatnot. I think we have signed a superstar. Guess what? All of these guys who are absolute pillars of the Premier League these days, they all had to start somewhere. You know, do you think Antoine Semenyo came out and everyone's like, oh, he's the nuts? Outside of someone like an Erling Haaland or something, they had to earn their stripes. This guy looks like the absolute real deal. And I would be a little bit coy to say this kind of stuff after just one game in the Community Shield. But we've seen it every game in pre-season. He looks like he's getting better and better. And I don't think this form is going to fade away. I think he is the absolute nuts. I can't wait to see more of him.
Love that. My hot take today is playing for Arsenal when you're a young man is survival of the fittest. It's like watching a nature documentary when there's a little group of ducks and they're trying to, cross over the river, and a crocodile comes out and he snaps at one of them, and then he gets his brother, and then one emerges as the hero. And I think we've seen a little bit of that in pre-season. Ethan Nwaneri, we love him. He's part of the little duck things. We've got Ethan there. We've got Max Dowman there. But Ethan didn't make it across the road. Miles did, because he was eating the lunch of Ethan. That little pass that he put in, where he passed around the corners, he broke the lines, bypassed about 6 players in one move in the opening minute of the game, was his Saliba moment. Saliba came back to training after 3 loans, and he said, I'm not going anywhere. I am going to make it impossible for you to get rid of me. Who comes off? Bruno comes off. Who stays on? Miles Lewis-Skelly. He ran the midfield there, 19 years old. He's a Highlander. He's not going anywhere. Stick your pure profit where the sun don't shine. All right.
Love it.
Stop the conversation. Listen, let's start broad and then we can narrow in through the pod. A lot of criticism was aimed at Arsenal's football last year. Matt Candela, I'll go here for the first point. Arsenal played football out there today. It was fun to watch. It was expansive. There was a lot of variation in our play. We stretched Man City. We were going wide. We were cutting inside. You just didn't know who was going to pop up with a shot. Is that the start of something beautiful this season? Do you think Arteta has understood that as an Arsenal coach, you've got to have some of the aesthetics in there?
Well, it's actually someone messaged me during the game and they told me that this should be my hot take, and the only reason it wasn't was because someone else said it, and I wanted to come up with something else. But their hot take was: is this the season that Arsenal stop playing good football again? And like, you look at it and you go, I can definitely see an argument that the football is going to dramatically improve. let's be honest, it dramatically improves when there are 3 players on the pitch, and that is Ødegaard, Kai Havertz, and Kai Saka. And they look fit. They all look fit. They all look ready to go. And then when you combine that with the fact that it feels like maybe the handbrake's come off, like there was a lot of anxiety about getting the first one after 22 years over the line. They look confident. They look up for it. I think it can make a difference. And when you hear Mikel Arteta talk, he basically said, at one point towards the end of last season, we had to realise that we had to find a way to win this league, and it wasn't the way that we anticipated at the beginning because of the injuries, because of the situations we found ourselves in. And we basically reverted to that defence-first pragmatism just to try and get us over the line for the 5 cup finals. But I think it could be a bit different. It's difficult to tell because we are playing one of the better teams today in Manchester City, who are they're not deep block FC. You know, they're gonna come out a bit. They're gonna play their own football. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when, you know, we're playing the rest of the league. But I thought it was positive. But what I like is we've got so many options. I mean, the Banty years, the dark days, they're behind us. You know, you're looking at 70 minutes and you've got Gyökeres and Zubamendi coming on. You know, that was. Can you imagine who was coming on 75 minutes in 2019 and 2020? It was bad. So what a squad we've got, and when you've got all of them fit, you can play better football. So yeah, I feel pretty positive about it.
Johnny Cochran, Arsenal playing delightful football. Was that a byproduct of playing against a team that was very open and maybe a little bit limp? Or do you think Arteta has brought players in like Solis, like Bruno, like Miles Lewis-Skelly to play a bit more of a direct game? So, you know, play a little bit more of an exciting brand of football that we all yearn.
It's a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B. I do think that City standing off on us like that, I mean, it's embarrassing. And, you know, this is why I'm not going to say too much anyway, because we've got our big predictions pod coming up on Tuesday. I don't want to talk too much about City right now, but I have massive question marks about Enzo Maresca as a manager. I do. And head-to-head against Arteta, I'm picking Arteta every single day of the week and twice on Sunday. And I thought it was lambs to the slaughter there. Silly game plan, and you got had up. Absolutely had up. Pocket money taken and literally pushed into the river. Get on with it. There was a class difference there. But with that being said, what I would say from the Arsenal side of it is we look like a balanced team. One of the things that we struggled with last year is, and particularly, you know, I think Trossard offered antidote sometimes, but he could be a little bit patchy as good as he was overall. When Martinelli plays, there's an imbalance in the team because of what Martinelli wants to do when he's at his best, which is running in behind. And when we face deep blocks, he's just kind of ineffective. And with Solis now, and you almost had the inverse of it with Madueke playing, but obviously if Saka was playing, it would certainly balance out. It meant that we could go right side, left side, with 2 fullbacks that want to go overlap, which means you've constantly got danger coming down the wings. You've got a striker who, I thought I don't think Kai was unbelievable. I thought he was good today. And he was a physical presence. And the one thing you're not getting out of me that I won't argue against, he's far better at holding the ball up, far better at being able to link up play. And that gives us an opportunity to make platforms in the way that we progress. But the key thing for me, and we're going to get onto him, you know, because I want my say on him, Martin Ødegaard was excellent. Another guy who gives us a platform, giving the ball in tight areas and being able to thread those little passes. Bruno Guimaraes offers a little bit of that as well. And with runners that go in behind all of a sudden, something that we lacked a lot of last year, which is why it looks so static, we look like a scary outfit. And that is going to get the Gooners chirping this year.
Yeah, I love that, Johnny. I love that. I think adding Bruno to our midfield was a bit of a statement, in my opinion. You know, he's not quite a 6, he's not quite an 8, but he is all action. He's very direct. He's got an air of confidence about him that gives other players encouragement in the system. And I think the biggest change that Arsenal could make is the midfield. I love Zubamendi. I think what he did last season was extremely underrated by large portions of our fan base. but it did become increasingly difficult to defend the sort of sideways passing, especially towards the end of last season. And Miles Lewis-Skelly got his chance because he's a bit more direct, he's a bit more vertical. And when you see that pass that he put into Calafiori early on, you're like, this is why he's got to stay. This is why he's probably got to start a chunk of the games. I'm not saying we need to get rid of Zubamendi, but Zubamendi is a World Cup winner. He's a Premier League winner. Does he want to be back up to a 19-year-old this season? Because the way Miles performed today, that's how it's looking for me. So I like that we're addressing some of the weaknesses in the side. We obviously won the Premier League last year, but we didn't smash fine margins games. You know, we were still involved in a lot of like very late wins, a lot of 1-0 to the Arsenals. Like, I'm hoping this season that add in people like Bruno, add in G&A merchants like Solis, and having Kion, having Saka fit all season will help push games into the sort of game state that we had with Man City. We stopped playing after 55 minutes. We didn't need to burn energy. We were just holding on to the ball, defending really well, and that will be advantageous to us this season if we can kill games early. That's something that we haven't had since 23. So very excited about the evolution of the game today. Hopefully we've got answers when it comes to the sort of man-to-man deep blocks. Let's talk about the Greek wizard, Solis the Generous. He's had quite an incredible preseason. We signed him from Club Brugge. I think there were concerns. You can do it against the Real Betis. You can do it against Dortmund. Can you do it against a big side on a big occasion? 2 assists today, 2 very different assists. Matt Candela, Solis, jury was out. There's still a way to go, but so far, so good. He has stepped up to the plate and provided the big goals in the big moments. What do you think of this young man?
What a signing, right? Can you explain to me how we got this guy for, what was it, 33 million?
Uh-huh.
But there are players going for 117, 116 million. Like they're I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, I have questioned a couple of Berta approaches, but you've got to doff the cap when you land a man like this. He looks built for the Premier League, a lot to prove. The crazy thing about it is it's not like he didn't have the stats last year. I think someone in the comments said he had 30 assists last year. 30. And yet none of us are talking about him. I love the way he moves. I love his profile. I often talk about Bukayo Saka. I've said the best thing about Bukayo Saka is decision-making. Now, we have not had someone on the left wing who I would say we've had different attributes. We've had brilliant defending from Martinelli, brilliant commitment. We've had brilliant finishing from Trossard, but we haven't had brilliant decision-making from anyone in a while. This guy looks like his best attribute is decision-making. He does all the right thing, but I also I love his build. You know, he looks like he's just built for Premier League football. He's a real man, you know, and yeah, I'm optimistic. I don't know if I'd go as far as Johnny. Johnny's basically saying he might be as good as Vinny Jr. at the beginning of the show, but you know, I do like him. I'm trying to think of some of the other famous Greek players. Maybe he could make his mark as one of the best ever.
Woo! I like that. I like that. Johnny Cochran, what'd you make of Solis? Feels like we've swapped out Trossard and just got a younger version of him. A little regeneration of the Belgian wing. A lot of similarities there, don't you think?
There is, but so there's a couple of things. First of all, I would go as far as to say, I think Solis was actually our prize for winning the Premier League last year. Because this is the kind of player who, from a stats point of view, and anyone who has transfer marked or, you know, FOTMob could have looked at the stats of this guy and said, he's an absolute menace. He is someone who is, you know, certainly worth an interest in. And when you look at the numbers that were being mentioned, 34 million, that's money you're finding down the back of your sofa in football these days. And this is the kind of thing that teams like Liverpool, teams like City, teams like Chelsea used to be able to do all the time. They just take gambles on people. And when it came as a head-to-head between Arsenal, who were going for top 4, and one of these teams, they would end up just plumping for them because it was a better sporting opportunity. And then these guys end up being just obscene. I remember when Eden Hazard ended up going to Chelsea, and we were in for Hazard. Everyone knew he was already a good player, but, you know, the likes of Barcelona and Real Madrid didn't go as hard for him. But we went in and we were trying to get in there because we knew there was a superstar under the bonnet and we wanted to secure it. And then at the end, we get gazumped by Chelsea, who were in far more of a heyday than what we were. This was the situation that we wanted to get to by winning a league, where we could go in and we just say, Arsenal were interested, and it stops becoming a discussion. And that's what happened with Solis. When you look at all the other guys, including the Vinny Juniors and stuff, oh, well, he wanted to stay, you know, it's not as bad as like an Alvarez who wants to go to another club. But Solis was like, Arsenal are in, yes, please, let's go. In terms of the frame, I think Matt makes a really good point. He looks like, you know, for so long we've had a lot of our hopes and dreams resting on people who look like, you know, they need to work out in the gym, look like they're physical counterparts with Fabio Vieira and the like. And you're worried that these guys are not going to be able to stand up to it. This guy looks ready. People are bouncing off him, and he looks like he's going head to head with City fullbacks, and they're finding it difficult. That's what we want to see. Gabby Martinelli sometimes can get pushed off the ball far too easily. And Trossard as well. You know, he would fight for you, but he's not exactly strong. This guy looks really stock set. So I think this is a great sign. I'm not sure I was quite saying he's quite going to be Vinny, but who knows? If you start doing 30 assists in this league, then you are on Vinny's level. Of course you are. I'm not saying he's going to have exactly that, but why are we expecting this huge drop-off in the Premier League when in reality, I think his game transfers really, really well? Because if you look at what he's trying to do, it's built around great vision, you know, tenacity, being able to make smart decisions, as Matt says, and finish as well. So I'm liking it, man. I'm liking what I'm seeing.
I like this. Lots of positivity. Let's carry on that positivity train. Let's head right in to the Martin Ødegaard masterclass. He's come back from the World Cup. He's won a Premier League now. The weight is well and truly off his shoulder. He might have put the vegan diet in the bin. He's eating red meat, and he's giving red meat to us on podcast, because what a performance. He looks back to his best. It's like looking at a combination of Bruno and Mesut Ozil in his peak in the final third. Some disgusting moves out there, some unbelievable passing, brilliant defensive work. The press is back. Martin Ødegaard looks like he's called up 2023 and said, this is the year I want to be in for the rest of my Arsenal career. To think people on this podcast were saying, sell him to Bayern Munich for 50 million last season. Matt Candela, Martin Ødegaard, can he keep up the power, pace, and pressure and become the man that we expected him to be 2 years ago?
I said it in my hot take. I thought we'd lost him. I just didn't see him coming back. He just felt like he was sort of on the periphery of things. He didn't really feel like our captain, even, to be honest. And obviously a bit of that came back, and obviously it was great to see him lift the Premier League trophy, and the players all seemed really happy, but it didn't feel quite right. And a lot of it was just about the way that he was occupying a completely different position on the pitch. And you talked about it, and you just thought the main rival for his position was Zubimendi. I mean, he was just getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Forget about being an 8 versus a 10. He was basically becoming a 6. And he was sort of occupying on that sort of just next to the right back a lot of the time. Well, today it was like a flashback. It was 2022-23 Ødegaard. Not just that, it was the smile on his face. He looked like he was happy to be back. And you look at the way, the balance of it with MLS and Bruno, with him a bit further forward, conducting the play. Even there was some shithousery in the first half with Gvardiol, which it feels like Martin's just sort of been out the picture. He hasn't been grappling with one of the biggest centre halves in the Premier League and winding him up and stopping him at corners. He's been getting thrown around and ragdolled. So, I'm slightly stunned, but suddenly I just thought to myself, okay, imagine what this Arsenal team could be if Martin Ødegaard's fit enough to play 33, 34 league games. Completely different outfit. And then think about what that does to Eze when he realizes what he's going to have to do to be challenging for his place. And suddenly you look at it and you go, maybe we haven't even seen anywhere near the full potential of this Arsenal team. So I don't want to go completely overboard, and I'm aware that I am. But yeah, I'm just very, very happy to see Martin looking happy.
I am too. Johnny, Martin Odegaard, is he rekindling your love for his creativity? Do you want to see more of this? Should we expect him to be hitting numbers like Frank Lampard back in the day, Johnny?
He was absolutely sensational today. A world-class performance. And Matt's, set it up perfectly. It was reminiscent of 22-23 Martin Odegaard. A guy who had a shout for best player in the league in his position. And everyone knows, my main metric that I've had an issue with, and it's the lack of goal scoring. So let's start with that. When he does go through, and you mentioned a great comp there with the Kanu, but I'll raise another one. It's Mesut Ozil. It's time standing still, maybe against Ludogorets. Okay, people just fall around me. And, you've got bullet time, matrix stuff. Donnarumma doesn't know where to go. And then when you're all down, I just roll it in the field, in the goal. And that level, part of the reason why it's so key, we spoke about it the other day. One of the biggest things that Martin Odegaard has been missing for a long time, actually, a very long time, is composure in front of goal. He didn't have composure. He would shank shots. He would rush them, take an extra touch, blasting things all over the gaff. And so even when he could be composed playing a through ball, perfectly weighted, you just could not trust him to finish opportunities. And that was something that I saw today for the first time in a very long time. So I make no apologies for saying that goal took it from being a very good performance to an excellent, top-class, world-class performance, because it had everything. The all-round play, though, is something I haven't seen off the guy for a long time. And I'm incredibly excited by what I saw out of him, because Matt said, I didn't think this guy was in there anymore. I thought it was Space Jam. Someone had sapped his powers and he was going to be playing Martin Odegaard impersonation, tribute matches for the rest of his career, where everyone says he used to be a player back in the day. This was him in full swing with the new aesthetic, but the old skills, the old cool, calm, composed nature, technique for days. And then there's a moment in there where he sent Rico Lewis to the shops as well for a can of Coke and a pack of sweets. Where you going, mate? Because you can't live with me. I'm disco dancing, roll, change of balance, and then by the end it's embarrassing. And then, are you going to stay composed? Of course I am. Putting balls into feet. It was top class. Now, I don't really think there's too much by way of negativity if I'm going to put any part of it. The one thing I would say is we have seen, probably not to this level, this is the best Martin Odegaard game I've seen in years. But we have seen good games from Martin Odegaard. But my issue or my worry has always been that can he string a number of these together in a row? I thought he looked good in that preseason game preceding it, but this was the next level. But give me 4 or 5 games like this and I will start to believe again that he's back and we will be a completely different outfit. But if you told me heading into this game was going to be dominated by a world-class Norwegian who was just going to run the game, I think, oh, fuck, Haaland's going to do it. Not a chance. The skipper on top form. Sensational.
I don't think you can underestimate the importance of that goal. Sometimes getting because it wasn't any goal. You know what I mean? It wasn't a tap in. It wasn't a scuff shot. It was absolute class finish against a big team in a game that matters. And it was so early in the season. And for him to have that taste back, and then he's going to go in for the confidence. He's going to want to do more of that. Now we've got a great chance because we've got Coventry at home, built for Martin Odegaard to show his class. How long has it been since the Arsenal faithful have sung Martin Odegaard's name? Has he even got a song? I mean, not really. But he's going to have one if he keeps putting in those performances again. And hopefully he can build on that because, if he could get 15 goals this season, we walk the league. We walk it.
Yeah. Don't underestimate the World Cup as well. You know, Martin Odegaard was carrying a lot of weight last year from an emotional perspective. Wanted to win the Premier League. He was feeling pain in his knee. He wanted to be at the World Cup, and it feels like then he got to the World Cup and had an absolute blinder, and all of that weight's been lifted. He's back to being a much more serious player. He's playing with joy. He's seemed a lot more risk averse out there, and he did it against Man City in the first game of the season. I just hope that we can get a steady flow of games, and I hope that Arteta doesn't overburden him in the first 3 months of the season, because we tend to get, you know, fairly strong start, and then he gets injured, then he's out for 6 weeks, then he has to come back in a rough December or comes back in a February. I hope that Arteta doesn't focus too many minutes on singular players this year. You know, bring Eze into the mix earlier. Like, make sure everybody feels like they're getting a touch of the ball and they're not just being brought in when there's an injury or there's a problem. Like, there's loads of minutes to go around this season. The biggest error of last season was we burned hard at the start and then we really sort of sputtered towards the end of the season. Hopefully Arteta and his 27 new fitness staff can manage that this year. And if we can have our best players fitter for longer, I'm with Matt. You know, we should be in conversations for the Champions League. We will be in conversations for the Premier League, no doubt. Let's move on to another player, King Miles Lewis Skelly. He was making gags about pure profit after he won the Premier League last season. He is a fan favourite, but we really did need him to step it up. He had a difficult second season at Arsenal, didn't really get a look in until the end of the year. There was a lot of talk that we were going to sell him. Intermediaries were offering him to Manchester United and Chelsea just last week. A disgusting rumour. Mikel Arteta really didn't help. He did not sound emphatic when he was asked what position he was going to play this year. He kept on talking up the idea that there would be lots of competition. Well, Miles starts in the Community Shield against Manchester City and puts in a near flawless performance. Johnny Cochran, I'm going to go to you first on this one. Has Miles made it very difficult for Andrea Berta to hawk him out to Premier League rivals with that performance?
Hawk him out? I think you're talking about a guy who should be starting games. Like, right now, I think he is in our best 11. And I mean that. Like, the difference between what we've seen kind of towards the end of last year, I think has a massive factor is to do with the fact that he played in a Champions League final and by all rights was a tank. He was a tank in the Champions League final, didn't let anyone down against the best team, or, certainly we're the best two teams in Europe. And Miles was about that life, wanted it, up for the contact, up for the technical examination, and he delivered. So when you start treading out there against an overpriced Elliot Anderson, against Kovacic in the twilight of his career, give me a break. Okay, he's not out there having Haaland questioning who he is. He's going, I'm the fucking best midfielder here, mate. And don't get me wrong, Bruno, who is an excellent player, and I think he's going to be a very, very important signing for us. He is new to the team, and therefore there will be a certain level of, a period of integration. So he won't necessarily be. But right now, in both settings, when Bruno's on, when Declan's on, who is obviously having to regain his fitness, Miles Lewis Skelly looks like our best midfielder right now. And I'm not overplaying it. Again, to be clear for anyone, I'm not saying Miles is better than Declan at top feet, but right now, he's the best midfielder we have. And I think that you should put him in the team and put either of those players around him. I think really Declan should just be sitting down games at the moment. He did not look completely fit. He shouldn't. Like, you can give him a little bit at the end of games. Don't rush him, Arteta. You're going to break this guy. But Bruno and MLS looked like they were really developing a good chemistry. And that slide rule pass, you mentioned it, Pete, that's piss taking. It's let me shuffle to my left. Oh, you didn't see it. Blink and you miss it. And now Ricky Caller's in hurting you early. And you know how the afternoon's going. And that's Miles saying, Again, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this standard. And he didn't look like a novice trying to learn on the job. Looks like a guy who's found his feet and genuinely thinks he's as good as anyone around. And that's the attitude you're going to need if you're going to want to break into this Arsenal team seriously, so no one mentions you potentially being involved in transfers away, because he's the best at the moment. And I thought he was absolutely fantastic today.
Matt, do you think Miles Lewis-Skelly is a bit of an unlock for Arsenal this season? He didn't get to go away with England for the full World Cup. He's, been doing run clubs all around London, just having a good time. He'll be fit, fresh. That takes some of the burden off Declan and Zubimendi. And also just the big question, Arsenal are struggling for money at the moment. They need to move on players. Do you think there's still a threat that, an £85 million offer comes in for Miles after that performance and Arteta just says, yeah, I'll do it?
Well, I think we'd be absolutely insane to let this guy go. Absolutely insane, because there's players who can go ahead of him. Like we could definitely shift Zubimendi if we need to sell a midfielder. And for me, you sell Zubimendi before you sell Miles Lewis-Skelly. And that's because we can talk about the playing ability and all of that, but when it comes down to it, the real difference between the top tier and the rest is the ability to deal with pressure. And you look at the best players, and they're just better at handling pressure. They're better in the big moments, and we know what a pressure cooker the Premier League title run-in was. So you've got players who are really good, who are better at handling pressure. Then for me, you've got this very, very, very small slither of players who sit above that. They don't just handle pressure. They actually want it. They thrive in it. And that's Miles Lewis-Skelly. He wants you to make it hard, because the harder it is, the more pressure it is, the bigger the game, the more he's going to deliver. Second leg, Bernabeu Stadium, Champions League finals, coming in cold for the run-in, having not played in a new position. The harder it is, the better he is. And that, for me, is what makes him such a unique profile. That is... I still can't forget. Do you remember Zubimendi? He couldn't place a pass at the London Stadium because we were all absolutely crapping ourselves. We all were. We couldn't watch it. The players didn't want to play in it. It was awful. Miles Lewis-Skelly was one of the few players who looked like he actually just would do anything to be out there and be playing that game. I don't think there was a part of him that ever thought, I don't want to be in the Champions League final. He loved it. So for me, you just always want your players, you always want your team jam-packed with players like that. And I couldn't countenance a sale at any price. Any price.
I was talking to a chess coach last night who works with sports stars, and he was describing what he did, and it was, I teach athletes to make correct decisions under immense amounts of pressure. And he said that is what an elite athlete is. And the basics of chess are about that, even if you're not running around. And I just think about Miles Lewis-Skelly and how you just described him there, Matt. This guy who just rolled into the Champions League final against PSG, one of the scariest sides ever put together, one of the fastest, most technically gifted midfields. And he was absolutely brilliant. And then he gets rolled out against Man City. He's under a lot of pressure because there's talk of him going, and he probably doesn't want to leave Arsenal, and he's got to put in a good performance. And then he drops that unbelievable assist early on, but then he just carries it through. Like, he's dominated Man City. This is a team that spent £825 million since January 2025. He's 19 years old. I can't even believe that there is a debate about whether to sell him or not. It's absolutely absurd. Like, the ceiling that this guy's got is monstrous. You could get another 15 years of play out of him. So really happy to see him do what he did today. I don't think there's any chance that he's going. I think the fact that he was in the squad, and some players that we love are not in the squad, speaks volumes about the sales strategy of Berta now. But yeah, keep on doing it, Miles. I think he's going to be a big trump card for us at the start of the season, because we can do a little bit more rotation. And I just wonder how easy it is going to be for players like Zubimendi to take the place of Miles when he's in form like that. So exceptional game from the young man.
Pete, a couple of things. First of all, this chess coach that you're talking about, is he suggesting that chess players are athletes? Are they the one that he's coaching? You can't call a chess player an athlete.
Yes,
Gary
you
Kasparov. Oh my God, give it.
Yes, you can.
I mean,
It's a sport, Johnny.
They're taking the piss with darts players, but chess players, it's like
you have to train the brain, Johnny. You have to train the brain. It's all about elite decision making under pressure. I believe chess players are athletes.
You should see my athleticism on my PlayStation. Oh, I'm fantastic. Me, in Cluedo. Oh yeah, I'm an intense.
Johnny, you're talking about somebody that's been a champion in esports, not directly, indirectly. I believe that esports players are also athletes. So, listen, your little example just buttressed my original point there.
Well, you're someone who couldn't complete Elden Ring, so
that's why I'm not a professional. That's why I just manage it.
Just one final thing on MLS. We talk about the mentality. This is part of what it is. And do you know what makes him so impressive? He has had adversity. Because it hasn't all been smooth sailing. When he burst in, it just went his way. Do you remember those games like with Man United where he was coming on, looked like he was lost, making bad decisions, fouling people, giving away. He looked like he could get sent off. He looked like he was off the beat, and it looked like he was going one way. But he dug in and he fought. And it reminds me of the Incredible Hulk. Like, if don't make him angry or his strength builds up. If you put him under pressure, he will bounce back and keep responding. And that is where you could compare him to, say, maybe another player. I'm not going to get into names, but who might be more technically gifted. But do they respond to pressure in the same way? I'm not so sure. Miles Lewis Skelly's ability to do it is 10 out of 10.
Love that. Love that. Let's move on to another topic of conversation. This one we will slightly diverge off of the game because this is about who was not at the game today. A few little surprises out there. Gabby Jesus, not on the bench. Martinelli, not on the bench. Rumours of Napoli being very interested in the Brazilian. And finally, Ethan Nwaneri, not on the bench. Fabrizio Romano claiming that he will be gone by the end of the month. Matt Candela, no surprises there, or are there? I mean, if Martinelli is not even in the squad, that must mean that Arsenal are further down the line with a purchase than maybe we imagined. What do you make of these omissions?
They're big. They're big. Look, I think we have to come to terms with the fact that we're losing one of our Highlanders. I think it's just the way it's all falling that it's going to be Ethan. I don't think he's done a lot wrong. I thought he was looking like he was ready to go. To be honest, I thought he looked more like a man than a boy. And I personally don't understand the point of. Well, I mean, I understand why we're doing it, and there's so much to get into on that. But it makes me sad. But I'm going to come to terms with it. Jesus, you're done, mate. Thanks for 10 games. Appreciate it. It was a wonderful hazy dream. But we need that 250,000 a week for someone who can contribute more. No hard feelings. The Martinelli one's interesting because that must mean we're going for a big name on the left wing. It must mean that. That's all it can mean. And if it is, you just look at it and you go, is there who else other than, I mean, is it Barcola?
Barcola is the only big name. And I just can't believe that you sell Martinelli for Yildiz or someone like that. Like, that's a sideways move. The only upgrade is Barcola, right?
Yeah. That's sort of where you get to. So yeah, we're gonna I wonder how much Solis has come into, how much that's come into the mindset where it's like, actually, we've got this guy, he looked really good, he's really settled in. We can afford to gamble a little bit more. We probably maybe thought, oh, we don't want to change up both our left wingers, but actually the way that he's settled means maybe we can be a little bit bolder on this one. But yeah, look, if we sell those three, I had a rumor we might get money for Jesus.
17 million is the fee, apparently. What's
If you
going
got me,
on there?
if you got me 17 million, I'll drive him there myself.
Is there anyone at Napoli that could be coming the other way in a deal like that? Like when you're doing deal, like there's a few clubs that when you're doing deals with them, there's always, it's not always the best. Lille, Napoli, Galatasaray. And we're messing around in all of those markets at the moment. Napoli does feel like a good move for Martinelli. He'd absolutely smash it up in Serie A. But what's the fee going to be? What does the fee have to be there? It's got to be, can't be 40 million, can it?
This is the problem. Matt said it well. Let's start first of all with Ethan. I'm really upset with this one, and I know it. I like you. I think it's going to happen now. When I saw that Romano thing, it's just taking the piss. He's been decent. He's been good, and there are other players, but this unfortunately just really speaks badly to how we can't get decent prices for players that we clearly need to go. We're happy to let Martinelli go. I think most Arsenal fans are happy to see him go. But I'm not even happy to see Martinelli go if we don't get a good price for him. Because if we don't get a good price for him or have a reasonable upgrade, then Martinelli's not shit, but we can improve in that area. In a team where there's not loads of areas where we can improve. The Nwaneri one just... People are saying in the comments, I hope it's a loan. It's not a loan. It's not going to be a loan. We might have a buyback or something, but the only reason I can see that this makes sense is part of, when we've done these deep dives into the finances and the whole thing around amortization with certain transfers and homegrown players being, as Miles Lewis-Skelly would call it, pure profit. And it sounds like, and it seems the way that we constantly seem to be flogging these guys, I think Arsenal might be in a real jam financially, just to try and balance the books, because Miles Lewis-Skelly's name shouldn't even be getting mentioned. But the fact we're selling Ethan just seems weird to me, like so weird. So if we sell him, I'd love to have a buyback clause option, and you better get some decent money for him, because we can't be just shifting all these guys for pennies on the pound. And I'll include Martinelli in that. 40 million is not enough. It's simply not enough in today's market. Fucking Savinio getting priced up for 80 million. We've talked about him. Shit player. Not good. Not impressive. 80 million they're lining him up. And that's the mugs at White Hart Lane. But let's go and find some other mugs that don't have a local rivalry. And then you talked about Barcola. I'd love it if it was Barcola that is the guy coming in. I don't think there's many upgrades on a Martinelli position that you could justify a huge extra outlay on. I still think that Julian Alvarez might linger around, and we might look at plugging that gap with Eze on the left, and we do it that kind of way. And they might be trying to get money together for Alvarez. I personally would prefer Barcola. I think he'd be a menace. He could be a menace in this league. He'd offer us the pace that Martinelli obviously does, with a little bit more a higher ceiling. And that would certainly appease myself and a lot of the fans if that was to get done. But really sad days, certainly on the Ethan front. The rest of them, I'm happy to close that chapter and move on.
I think the difficulty with Ethan is that he was a very good right winger, and then we signed Madueke for some reason. And Arteta was insistent that Ethan could do what Ødegaard does. But he's never going to be able to do what Ødegaard does right now, because he needs to be playing on the regular. And I just don't think Arteta had time for it, which is sad, because I think we might regret the Ethan sale. The Martinelli one's interesting. A lot of fans are saying, Barcola's not an upgrade. I'm sorry. If you've got the same pace as Martinelli, but you look up, that's an upgrade. And Barcola looks up. He's got the work rate that Arteta looks for in a winger. And he's also got some of that bang-bang magic that Martinelli sometimes has, but not often enough. I don't think Martinelli is very good in a deep block. I think he spends more time clattering crosses into legs than he does finding people in the box. And he hasn't really elevated the technical side of his game in 3 years to where we need it to be. And I think the Barcola didn't really have a good output last season. But in the big games against Chelsea, against Liverpool, in the big moments, I think he showed up. And I think he will be a fantastic addition to Arsenal. But I just wonder, though, I mean, PSG won 140 million. Really? Is that where we're going? I just don't see Arsenal finding that sort of money. But PSG did just sign Götze from Ajax for 45 million. So they're very stacked down the left at the moment. So he's going somewhere. And like, are Liverpool going to have 140 million to spend on a winger? They don't have any defenders. So the market is very narrow for Barcola. No one in Spain is going to pick him up for that sort of price. It feels like there's only one club that he can go to. And I'm definitely keeping an eye on Alvarez. But I think they're waiting for Atletico at the end of the window. Will Atletico sell to Barcelona? If they don't, does Alvarez want to be there? And if he doesn't want to be there, I think Arsenal will be sitting there with a bag of money and Victor Gyökeres. And I think that will be the deal that will get done. So I think that will go up to the window. But you really, I was watching the Arsenal's attack today. Apart from Madueke, who's got a lot of pace, but he does this slow meandering run up the pitch, which was driving me crazy today. We don't have enough electric pace. And I think if you had sort of the counterpoint to Solis, which is a real afterburner speed merchant in Barcola, I think you've got a very balanced offering there. You can stretch teams, you can do teams in tight spaces. You've got a left side, which you can trust. And I'm not saying we couldn't trust it under Trossard, but I think a Barcola on the left will free up Saka on the right. And I think that's what we could all get behind.
But I definitely think with Barcola, here's the upside for me. I know, people get a little bit squeamish when I mention these comparisons, but when I look at where Barcola finds himself at the best team in France, a team that obviously has won Champions League but challenging, and you look at where Thierry was before he moved from France, he was breaking into the France team. He was in and around it, but Nicolas Anelka, by all rights, had stolen the limelight in terms of that young prodigy. No one was saying that Thierry wasn't great, but he was having to find his way to break into a team that another guy had already broke through. And Doué gets a little bit more attention, and you've got other players, obviously Elise now, who've been given their chance to shine in their own team. I think profile-wise, factoring out, I think Barcola, I'm not saying he definitely will, but there's a reasonable shout of him breaking big in the Premier League and doing. He doesn't have to be the greatest player the Premier League's ever seen, but if he's even 80% of what Thierry could do, he'll be an absolute nutcase. And I think that is a reasonable gamble to take. When you look at what Gabby Martinelli's serving up, I think we kind of can plot that out, what it's going to be over the next few years. So I'd be here for the gamble.
All right, two more topics.
I think the biggest thing for me on that is the fact that because Solis looks good, I think you can bring in Barcola, and it's not like when we bought Nicolas Pepe in, and basically you're just waiting for him to score 20 goals and it's all on his shoulders. You've got a really good player in Solis who comes in, and Barcola can start just picking up last 25 minutes for 5, 6, 7 games in a row and start scoring goals and getting his feet under the table. It can be a really nice acclimatization because of this Greek boy we've got. Like, I think that will make a huge difference to acclimatization. And then we just have him ready to go for the Champions League in the back half of the year. I don't think we'll get him, by the way.
I love that point. There's a few people saying what use is pace when we are up against deep blocks week in, week out. I think the interesting thing about Barcola is he has pace from a standing start. He's very, very quick over short distances for someone that's 6 foot tall. And I think you're right, Matt. We need 2 wingers. We need to be rotating them in and out so we don't burn players out this season, and bringing Barcola into a system that already has a winger that's racking up G's and A's left, right and centre, I think could be very positive. All right, 2 more topics. Let's get a little Man City vibe check. Enzo Maresca sitting in the dugout is feeling very Unai Emery out there. The football was not good. The players did not seem in a good headspace. We know they'll be decent for the start of the season, Johnny, but they've definitely lost 5% aura points with Pep Guardiola out of the building. What odds do you give of Maresca lasting the full season?
What? Just on your intro there, Pete, why do we know they're going to be decent for the start of the season?
Yeah, we don't. We don't.
We don't. We're assuming because of what we saw under Pep. They're not the same team. And I'll give you one guy to focus on, which kind of links to the players that we're going to look at. I thought the gap between goalkeepers today looked like the Grand Canyon. We've obviously know we've got the best goalkeeper in the world, but Donnarumma looked like really, really shaky. He looked flappy. And a goalkeeper can often be a good weather vane for how your defensive unit is lining up. He looked all at sea. And I think that Maresca has shown, even at Chelsea, it took a while for his ideas to come through. I'm not sure they ever fully did. Like, I thought he did a decent job at Chelsea, but not a great one. Obviously, crowned with the FIFA Club World Cup. But outside of that, it was not that impressive. It was just all right. They spent loads of money in general. So I don't think City are necessarily going to be picking it up where Pep Guardiola left them. And also some of these players who are absolute, fulcrums of the team. Bernardo Silva, you can't underestimate what this guy's about. He's an absolute pest over those years, consistently digging them out. And Rodri, best player. So certainly alongside Erling Haaland. So I don't think it is necessarily all gravy for Man City. I think the alarm bells would be ringing a little bit. I don't think they're going to, be shocking, but the idea that they're just suddenly going to turn it around and they'll be cruising towards challenging for the league, I don't take that as a formality whatsoever. And they might have a very slow start to this season.
Matt, Man City, are they in trouble under Maresca? Is there going to be an inevitable dip? May you muted yourself, mate.
I think it's so easy to be like, oh, Maresca's shit or this, that. Pep's the greatest manager in the world. Maresca can be a really good manager and still be nowhere near the level of Pep Guardiola. Do you remember what Pep Guardiola did to us in the League Cup last season? The League Cup final. He came on and I think how smart Arteta is for someone to go and put the tactical straitjacket on, so we couldn't pass out of defence. We made about 4 passes, just with a different little some system tweaks. That's what Pep Guardiola had in his locker. Even when the players were failing him, he could go and just do something ridiculous, and you just never know where he was going to come. So I don't think it's Maresca's terrible. I think Maresca's a decent manager. I just think Pep Guardiola he's the greatest of all time. That he just is, and he was doing it last season. So I don't think they're going to be anywhere near the same level as they have been under Pep Guardiola, which is very, very good news for us.
Yeah, he's an interesting hire for me. I don't really understand it. It's the 3rd time he's been back to Man City as well, which is also interesting. So they must really love him down there. I thought that they had hired him to kind of be the fluffer, the sort of in-between before they go and get a serious piece of equipment. But then you look around the world at the moment and you're like, I don't know who could come in and pick up where Pep Guardiola left off. Mikel Arteta, maybe it would be Vincent Kompany that they go for. But I don't really feel like the first person after Guardiola has much chance of surviving. And I just, looking at the body language of Haaland just in general, Ryan Cherky came on. Just, he never feels like the sort of player that you want in the locker when things are going wrong. And I just wonder whether some of the seams will come a little bit loose over the next few months. And I think Johnny's point, Bernardo and Rodri, that's almost as big a deal as losing Pep. Like, Rodri is the guy. I think, Man City fans are like, don't sell Rodri. Don't sell Rodri. He's going.
Well,
And I'm sorry, Elliot Blanderson and Kovacic are not saving you this season. They are not saving you, and I love it. All right.
But I think that your Cherky point is a great one, right? Because we hadn't forgotten Cherky on Ben White and Cherky last season, the showboating. And then at the end of the game, what do? Mosquera just goes and cleans him out just to remind him, by the way, we don't forget. That's what we do. And what did City do? Nothing. Can you imagine if Rodri and Bernardo Silva were there? There'd have been a little row. There'd have been a few little, there'd have been a couple of yellow cards. The ref would have had to clean it up, because you can't get manhandled by your biggest rival and let that sit. The fact that no one was anywhere near it, no one cared, everyone was just whatever, showed me that the mentality's gone over there.
I agree. All right, final topic. A little bit of a Bruno verdict. Matt, what did you make of Bruno starting in our midfield? Was it as exciting for you as it was for me?
I thought it was exciting to see the name, excited to see in an Arsenal shirt. I thought he looked not quite up to speed to me. Looked just the passing was a little bit off, but He'll get there. My God, he'll get there. What a great signing this is, you know. So I'm very, very excited to have him. But I didn't think he was at his best today. But he'll get there.
Johnny?
I liked what I saw. I like the physicality. I appreciate where Matt's coming from on a couple of things, but I like the physicality. Cracking people. Phil Foden got one of them. Get down. And Phil Foden didn't want it. There was another guy, he dished out some of those beats to. This is the kind of stuff he was doing to Jorginho when we were going up there. And we were just like, you know, he's roughhousing people and he escapes yellow cards somehow. So I like that. He wasn't the best midfielder on our team when he was playing. Miles Lewis-Skelly led the way there, but I thought he was better than both of Man City's midfielders. He was better than Elliot Anderson, who, you know, when you talk about a new signing, how are they acclimatizing? Guys, he was, you know, incognito today. And Kovacic, who, you know, is in the latter stages of his career, not impressed by him at this stage whatsoever. Bruno Guimaraes was a step above either of those guys. So I'm confident that he, like you say, he will get there, but I thought he was already decent. And if this is the midfield that we have starting against Coventry, I mean, good luck, guys, because I thought they looked very sharp between them.
Right.
Sam Dean said he thought it was the best debut performance by an Arsenal midfielder since the great Danny Ceballos showing against Burnley in 2019, the Bruno. So maybe I missed something.
If he can have half the career Danny Ceballos had for Arsenal, we're in for one here, aren't we?
Greatest midfield. I mean, it almost feels like a bit of a jab. Danny Ceballos. Now, there was a player that I did not understand. I did not understand him. You know, like Tactico's explaining it to me. I'm like, I don't get Danny Ceballos. Then he goes to Madrid, wins a bunch of titles. Only just left last year. What a mystery. So glad that we're not in that era now. I think it's going to be a great season. And if you're listening to this podcast, and you're not listening to it live, if you remember, you could be listening to it live. Go to patreon.com/the Arsenal Opinion. Get all of your content ad-free. Johnny?
Couple of points of order. Obviously, we are on we're getting into the season now, and the AOP fully up and running as well. We're getting into the beef of it. I know everyone's very excited, and we can confirm we've got our predictions pod, the much vaunted predictions pod, getting recorded this week, Tuesday. Accounts. Look at man like Matt Candela. He's in Mallorca. He's glowing. He's currently joint champion, the most prescient members of the pod. But Pete has now got data behind him and is assuring everyone that this is going to be the year he finally sheds the Fabio Vieira shame. Final note as well is we're only a week from getting, 4 or 5 days away from getting our finalised FPL teams. So if you do want to get in the AOP League, the code is on the screen. But for audio listeners, the code to join is small lowercase ID. It's just dropped out. ID 76DO, all lowercase. So join in and watch me ascend. Oh, last thing on that. Mike Halpin, he's been saying, Mike Halpin or Haplin, either way, FPL Mike, he has been the dominant force in the AOP League, and he says, how dare you even talk about FPL without mentioning my name? And I said we will not get through another pod without it. Shout out to the Big Don. I'm coming for you this year. You watch.
Fighting talk, fantasy football, you nerds. You absolute nerds. All right, on that note, we're going to say ciao for now, everybody.